Don't ask me. We're
Okay.
lucky we can run our microwave and the VCR.
Gladys Wells.
Isn't that funny? His dad went over in the Queen Elizabeth too. I wonder if we were in the same ship.
Wow.
I think they carry 15,000 troops at a time, which to me, I thought that's about 5 times the size of the town I grew up in.
Can you tell us about the places that you went and explain what you did, like in each place when you went over to Europe?
When I went over to Europe,
Mhm.
okay. Well, we went across the Channel, English Channel in July. D-Day was June the 6th. We went over in July. And we had to go into the beach. And we were lowered over the side of the ship in the boats, little boats, and went in. And we started working in, I think our first setup was in Brest, France, out in the field with lots of bees around, in tents. And we were there, we were the first hospital behind the front lines, and we took only seriously wounded, which meant mostly chest and abdominal wounds because they needed immediate surgery. And we would keep them for about 8 to 10 days, and once they were able to be moved, they would be moved back to general hospitals or over to England or somewhere for further treatment. And then we would pack up our tents and move on to the next location as the Army progressed. And we went, I can't tell you how many times we tore down our hospital and set up again. In the summer or good weather, we were in tents, and in bad weather, we were in buildings, usually a schoolhouse or an office building. A lot of them damaged by the war, so the windows, and you had to have blackout conditions all the time. Tents were set up so they were like a whole bunch of tents were connected to each other. You didn't just set up a tent here and a tent there, because you could not have any light showing at night. Everything had to be blackened out, because at night the Germans would come over just to nosy around. We called them bed check Charlies, because they'd come over at night, so you didn't ever have any light showing. And we used to put a big red cross out in the middle, but I think they sometimes used that as a target, so we sort of stopped doing that. But then we went from France, several setups there, to Belgium, Holland, Luxembourg, each time staying maybe in one place, taking care of patients for 8 to 10 days or to 2 weeks, and then moving on. The hospital I was in was actually like 3 separate little hospitals, so they sort of leapfrog. If you finished here with patients and the Army moved on, the next unit would go ahead of you and take care of things. I don't know what else to tell you. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah. Where did you stay while you were there? Did you stayed like in specific cities all the time, or in fields all the time?
We were out in fields half the time. You didn't know what town you were in. You know, you were just out in a field somewhere. We did get a chance to go on passes to Paris and Brussels and the French Riviera. I went to Paris twice, French Riviera twice, Brussels once. However, wartime, so things like the Louvre in Paris were not open. You couldn't get to see things like that.
Did you have any specific training, like before you went over to, like, other than nursing, before you went over to?
Actually, our outfit didn't get too much training here in the States because we were sort of put together in a hurry. They needed the field hospitals over there. So that's why we were in England for about 3 months. That's where we did our training, hikes and so forth. And, but you learn fast once you start working. Things were a lot different than what we thought they were going to be. In the unit I was in, there were 5 nurses and 3 doctors and a dentist and different administrative people and then the enlisted men. So it was, I don't think there were 100 people altogether in my unit. And so you got to know everybody and you were with them 24 hours a day. You ate with them, worked with them, and lived there in tents, a whole group. Nurses were always in one tent together.
Mm-hmm. Did you see any like actual battles going on, or?
Not going on, but as we moved, we went by tanks that were still burning. And at one point, we moved into a town, this was in the spring, and we went into a building where we were going to set up our hospital. And there was a little balcony, we went out there and the nurses went out. And pretty soon we saw these men coming up the street, you know, with bazookas over their shoulder and guns, and we waved to them, "Hi, how are you?" They said, "What are you doing here?" And we said, "We're setting up our hospital." They said, "Well, you know, the town hasn't been taken yet." So we discovered there were a whole bunch of German soldiers in the basement. And so we made them help us clean out the place so we could set our hospital up, and then took them down the road to a prisoner of war camp, which was nothing but a field. There were no buildings or anything. They just sat out there. If it rained, they got rained on. And
what battles were you closest to?
well, I should have brought. We were involved in Battle of the Bulge. Have you heard of the Battle of the Bulge? Okay, we have a battle star for that. And let's see. I can't give you the exact names. We were with different divisions, which I have all this in here. I don't know if you'd want to make copies of all this stuff. Somewhere it tells what divisions we supported. But we followed General Patton for a while through the war. We were in the 3rd Army and the 9th Army. Here's different places we were.
Okay.
Which doesn't tell you anything about the battles because name the towns and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of Kaiserslautern?
I
That was on TV a lot because that's where they brought a lot of prisoners to. But the Battle of the Bulge, that was in winter, that was bad. And we were in a building at the time and I was on night duty. And you've heard of the buzz bombs? They're actually bombs that are just sent, and they're never too sure where they're going to land. They're not dropped from an airplane. What did they call them? Guided missiles or something. But anyhow, I was on night duty. A lot of these buzz bombs had come over, and they said as long as you can hear them, you're okay. Once the motor stops, then they go down. So I thought, well, it's fine as long as you're hearing the noise, but when it's quiet, maybe there's one headed right for you. However, I think one landed next to our building, but it didn't explode.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, they found it after we moved out of the building.
Wow. What would you say was the worst injury that you had to treat while you were over there?
Oh boy, you wouldn't believe what we treated. As I say, we took primarily abdominal and chest wounds, and they're bad. I remember one time a division clearing station brought us a patient in so we could give him some more blood with both his legs blown off, which wasn't pretty to see, but neither were any of our patients. And of course, I must tell you about one patient we had. I wish I could find him. He was a lieutenant, just a young kid. He's 21, which I was at the time too. And he was injured from head to toe. He had chest, abdominal, arms, legs, eye out, jaw broken, face all messed up. And one night on night duty, and he couldn't talk because his jaw was wired together. So if he wanted anything, we would have to hold a slate for him because he could only use one arm, and he'd write down what he wanted. So one night when he asked me something or wanted something, I gave him the paper, and he writes, I'd said Lieutenant Klein, I can even remember his name. And I guess I shouldn't say this, but what he wrote down was, he says, to hell with the lieutenant, call me Jack. Can you imagine as bad as he was? And one of the nurses that was with me came back, and she stayed in the Army and went to Valley Forge Hospital, where they do plastic surgery, and he was there. And she said he was the same happy-go-lucky guy, and was actually looking pretty good. They'd done a lot of plastic surgery on him. But I often said, if people could just come over and see our hospital, there'd be no more wars.
How long were you in the services?
2 years and 4 months, I think it was, but most of that was overseas. I was overseas we went over in April of 44 and came back in November of 45.
And how old were you when you went over there?
22, I guess. And the doctors, of course, were older because they'd been through school and all that, but, and some of the nurses, the nurse that went to Valley Forge, she was a lot older than I was. She was from Harrisburg.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, campaigns. Okay, Normandy, Northern France, Central Europe, Rhineland, and Ardennes. We have battle stars for those 5 campaigns.
Wow.
It was, I guess you sort of try to put in the back of the mind things you don't want to remember. So there's a lot probably I don't remember to tell.
Yeah. You said you have some things on the Holocaust in there?
Just that one thing, but this is a story of the unit I was in. One of the sergeants wrote this, and I don't know if you'd be interested in copying it, or I can make copies and send them to you or whatever.
Okay.
But it pretty much describes what you might want to know. This was a picture of, that's the guy who wrote it. This was me.
See if I can.
And, you know what? I
Hold it
brought-
up.
I think I did. Oh, so you know I wasn't always an old lady.
Oh, hold on. Okay. Where's the next picture?
You know, there were just 2 nurses from Millersburg, and
And
the other
that's
nurse was not a native, and she was killed in Italy. That was me before I went overseas. I don't know if it looked much different when I come back. Let's see what else I might have in here. If you'd be interested, I don't know if you could make a copy here, or I can.
I could probably make a copy with the copier out
Yeah.
in school.
But you'd probably find that interesting to read. It's really, I was gonna bring the original copy. Have you ever seen Now I can't think, but little purple print, what did they call that? See, that's before your time. But anyhow, one of them, this was on computer. Someone got this off the computer in this big print, so that's why I have it like that. And these are copies of some of our daily records, like where we were and how many patients we admitted and how many died and so forth.
Were there many that died?
Oh, we had a pretty, in spite of the fact that we took the most seriously wounded, we had a pretty good survival rate. I think we had 11% death total for the whole war, which isn't too bad. I remember giving blood to a patient one day that had just been taken less than 24 hours before in New York. That's how fast they got it over to us. And it had the people's name, one who donated the blood. I always wanted to write and tell them, that it was used for a good cause. But those are some of the pictures of Gardelegen. I can explain.
Gardelegen is...
That was one of the horror camps, and those are all dead bodies. There's about 4 pages of those.
Wow.
I hope you take one of that so I can see what I did look like.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, good. Many years ago. Did you interview any other women from Millersburg who were in the service, or were a lot of them?
I think I did not, but I think the rest of my class did.
There's a woman, I don't know if you know her, Betty Hamaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to her, but she said she wasn't over in Europe. She was stationed in New York, and they took care of a tidal wave had hit New York, and they took care of people, but she wasn't comfortable with being in front of the camera. But it was pretty neat because she's my neighbor, so I went over and talked to her, and I got to hear her story.
Yeah, I know Betty real good.
I'm going to interview Cappy Reich tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's my interview person.
So you saw all of this, not just through the camera,
I was not at that, but I took care of the survivors who came to our hospital.
and what were they like?
They were like animals almost, because they were
Okay, next page,
scared. And as I say about the bread, I mean, they got really violent about that. And the German people, we had German patients. We took care of German wounded too. And to me, they were just another
Okay,
patient.
next page.
Yeah. How did the Germans treat you when you were treating them? Were they...
Everyone I dealt with was very nice
Mhm.
and very appreciative, but I understand there were some that were not. One patient, a German patient, had a hand grenade under him when he came in. I got that away from him, but most of them were.
When you talked to the German soldiers that didn't see the camps, did you ask them about?
Not really, because, I don't know, I guess you didn't have time, or, but, and we didn't keep them too long, but I remember, I felt bad. A lot of them didn't want to be there fighting any more than we did. They were pretty spunky too. I remember one German, I thought sure he'd be dead by morning, and he was up sitting on a chair next to his bed.
Didn't give in that easily.
Okay.
No. And you know, they had to wait until we took care of the Americans before we took care of them.
Really?
No matter how bad they were. They waited until everybody else was taken care of. I actually was trying to find pictures of tents, but I don't have much on that.
This is at Buchenwald.
Where?
Buchenwald.
Buchenwald.
Buchenwald, yeah.
And we had little puppies we had took
Really?
with us.
Okay.
Yeah, here's some of the little puppies we had.
Should I show it up to the camera?
Sure.
I don't know how good they'd be. See the little puppies there?
Aw, were they miniature dachshunds, some of them?
Okay,
No,
let me,
well, that was a dachshund.
Yeah.
We got that from some German
Oh, really?
woman,
I'll
and
put it right there.
when we came home, we gave it to one of the GIs to keep.
Oh my
Its name
goodness.
was Nikki. She was so cute.
Oh,
These are pictures of you riding a motorcycle on there.
No, that's not me.
Oh.
That was a girl we met in the French Riviera. Simone somebody.
those puppies are so darling.
Aren't they cute? They were the children of Fichte. Fichte was the name of the dog that had those.
Aw. Did you have one to take care of?
No, we just sort of all shared.
You just all
took
shared?
care of them, yeah.
How many were there?
I think there was 5. I'm not sure. We lived wherever we could. We lived in a doctor's home in Holland for about 2 weeks. And he was the head of a maternity hospital there, and he used to allow us then to go down to the hospital and take showers and baths. That was another problem, was you washed your hair in your helmet, and sometimes you didn't get showers for a long time because there weren't any available.
Wow.
One time we were stationed, we're close to a coal mine in Germany. They had the most beautiful showers there, white tile showers. We'd go there. That was our recreation for the day, was to go take a shower.
Okay.
And I stayed in a monastery one night, slept on the pool table. And I lived in a convent for about 2 weeks with some nuns.
Wow.
There I am on my bicycle that I confiscated in Germany.
Did most of the Germans and the survivors, did they speak any English?
Some, but we learned the German words that we needed for like pain, and you want a shot for the pain and stuff like that. Spritzer for the schmerzen, and but we met some. She was an American woman, but she was married to a German, and she was real nice. She let us in her house.
So, a lot of the Germans were nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much for war, so I just looked upon people as another human being and talked to them. And I think the French were a little nastier to us than the Germans, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I tell you something, your high school French doesn't work over there.
Really?
At least not out in the country. When we were out, in the fields, when we first went over there, we wanted to get some eggs one day. So we started out, and I thought we said pretty good, have you got any eggs? But nobody understood it. But we finally did. Those are just pictures that a couple years ago we went down to Gettysburg, and this was one of the other guys in our outfit. And that's Bruce and me. And they had a setup of tents. So.
Emma, can you hold that one? Okay, is there no?
Just that one. You look at that one.
Sure.
Oh, you knew about V-mail. That's what you wrote your letters on, and that's what people wrote the letters back to you on.
Wow.
Some, that was just a gang of them signed for, I was gonna send it home for Christmas.
And was any of your letters that were sent over or came to you like blacked out?
I don't think so. As an officer, our letters were not usually censored. But that's what the letters were written on. And then you knew there were certain size box that they could send you from here. You know, they couldn't send you big cartons. There were certain size boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time my brother's wife had canned fried chicken, southern fried chicken. She went somewhere where they put it in cans for them, and marshmallows, and I forget what else. Oh, did that ever taste good? That was like home cooking.
Hmm.
Of course, we had mess gears. You know what mess gears were?
No.
Gee, I should have brought my canteen cup. That's the only thing I have left. Well, they were metal trays about this big, and the one had compartments and the other was just a lid. And then you had a knife, fork, and spoon, and a cup. And when you ate, they plopped your food in those, and when you were finished, there were 3 big, like garbage cans with real hot water in. So you scraped out the garbage, and you dipped them in the first thing, and then you dipped them in the second thing, and then you dipped them in the third thing, and then supposedly they were clean and you ate out of them the next meal. We didn't get sick, so I guess it was pretty efficient.
Yeah. Wow.
This is the place, Hagley Hall. That was the name of the town we were in England. Let me get that postcard out of there. And we did most of our practicing, setting up tents in that place.
Filled it differently. There you go. That's good. Okay.
So Hagley will never be the same again. This is when, this was in the papers. That was a picture of me that was in the paper. I don't know how they got it. Let's see here.
Okay, let me see that one.
I don't know how good these are under whether you get a reflection or anything.
Nope, if you hold it a certain way, it's pretty good. Hold on, let me get this one. Okay.
Here's some of the destruction. That was me being sworn in.
Oh, is that you?
This is me right there.
Oh,
I had already
wow.
been sworn in actually, but they wanted me on the stage. So, and down here I'm in one of those. That was one of the nurses in her
You
outfit.
hold
That
it
was
up.
on a computer.
Okay.
Here are some of the destruction pictures that I have. I think most of these were bridges in Holland. That was those are cement things so tanks couldn't get through. I forget what they called those. we were invited to a dance one time. This was the,
Oh, I see.
It's cool.
And that was a dance that they had for the nurses and.
for anybody around there. We went to a dance one night with the British, and we picked up the British nurses in our ambulance on the way to. Incidentally, you see everything from the back of an ambulance when you're in the Army Nurse Corps in Europe.
No, that's you in that picture right there?
That's me, yeah. That's my friend holding the doggy. But here, wait, there's another one, me with my bicycle. There I am with my bicycle and my helmet. You had to have your helmet at all times.
I'm like, hold that up a little.
And that was the nurse I worked with. She was
there.
with my skill. Anyhow, what was I saying?
Sorry.
The dance you only saw out the back of a.
Oh, in the ambulance, yeah, but there was another story gonna go with that.
Okay.
The reason, I must explain too, the reason I don't have really good pictures, you were not supposed to have a camera.
Okay.
You were not supposed to be taking pictures, obviously somebody did. So then there was not a photomat on the street corner either, and they were developed in our x-ray developing solution.
Oh.
And then they had to print them on whatever paper they could get, so that's why they are not good pictures.
What would happen if someone found a camera?
Oh, I guess they just take it from you, I don't know.
What can you hold that
And you
up
were
a
not
little
supposed to keep a diary or a journal or anything?
different? And you didn't?
No. Because I'm sure there are a lot of things I've forgotten.
Okay.
Oh, I know. Going to the dance, we picked up these British nurses. So we parked in the town, and we were getting out of the ambulance, and a shell hit, and all the windows broke all around, you know. So we're shivering in our boots, and these British nurses are going, "Oh, close, wasn't it? And on they go." You know, it didn't bother them at all. So the whole time we were at this dance, there was shelling going on and bang and bombing. It was horrible, but we had a good time anyhow.
Weren't you guys afraid?
Yeah,
Flatten that out a
you
little
did. There were times
like
when
flatten
you're
that out.
afraid, but
There you go.
what are you going to do about it? You're there.
You have to live with it.
Yeah. We used to sing a song,
Okay.
I'll Be Home for Christmas, 1953. These are taken on the Riviera. We stayed in a real fancy hotel in one of the fanciest areas of the Riviera for $1 a day,
Wow.
including meals.
Wow.
Okay.
Siegfried line is what those cement things were called.
Okay. Okay.
I have a couple of medals I got. I didn't bring those.
That's okay.
So that's why the pictures aren't any better, but at least I have something. So.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Do you think if you had the chance again, and maybe if you were younger, you'd want to go over and do that again? Be a nurse and...
If I were younger, yeah. As you get older, you realize what dangers you were in. I guess when you're young, just like you guys, I guess. But I grew up here in Millersburg, had never been anywhere to speak of, and I thought, I have a career that I can be of help and get to see the world. So I did. And I don't ever want to go camping again. And I hear these people say, oh, they're going camping with their kids, and I think, oh, you gotta be kidding. My kids never got to go camping. My idea of roughing it is staying at Motel 6 instead of the Marriott or something. I don't know, probably after I leave here I'll think of a lot of things.
That's okay. Whatever you can share with us is just fine.
Well, I'll tell you, I met a lot of good friends and worked with a lot of dedicated people. I remember the first setup we were at in Brest, a bunch of surgeons had just come over from the U.S. and they walked through our tent, and I think their jaws were dragging on the ground. They couldn't believe how you could take care of people under those conditions, but we did. Let's see, is there anything else? I look through these notes again. Let's see. Ted Scott, who wrote this, did a really good job of, I think, if you copy this and read it, you'll get a lot more out of this than what I've said, because he pretty much got down to the nitty-gritty.
Mm-hmm.
In here, I'm Lieutenant Dressler. I'm mentioned a couple times in here.
Do you know
Holland was a nice place to be. I liked Holland.
Just push the record button maybe again.
Okay. Well, I don't want to lose it.
VE Day, you know what VE Day was?
Victory in Europe.
Victory in
Yeah. We were in Salzwedel, Germany, and it just reminded me here, just down the street, we were in a schoolhouse, just down the street from us was this old church that had been built, I think he said in 1200 sometime. Beautiful. And an engineer chaplain came along and offered to have services for us, so we went down there, and it was a spring day, of course, the windows were open, the pigeons were flying around, reminded me of doves, you know. And he had a wonderful service and a beautiful organ there. And I don't know if he brought with him the organist or whether it was the organist for the church, but it was a beautiful service. And we appreciated that, because we rarely got to go in a church for church services. It'd be in the back of a vehicle or out in the field or just wherever you had a chance that the chaplain was around. We had a pet bunny for a while too, but it died. And the nuns, we were staying with the nuns at the time. They offered to give us another one, but we didn't want it. So that's about all I can tell you at the moment.
Okay.
That was excellent.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank
It
you.
definitely was